Today we're going to talk about polylines and polygons. And I've mentioned previously that polylines are a series of line segments that are connected, but it's one entity, it's one object. And the benefit to using polylines is that it makes your overall file size smaller, which the drawings that we're doing is not that big a deal. But if you're doing a rather large and complex project, then it does make a difference. And it does make it easier to copy and move things if they're a polyline. Okay, so um, the polyline command you got up here, you can start it up here in your draw menu, or you can start typing the command pline as it's known, and it asks you for the first point. So I'm going to say 0, 0. And for my second point, I'm going to say 2, 2. And then I'm going to say 2, 0. That'll move me to the right. Oh, I must have hit something. I did. So my thumb hit the pad on the laptop here. So let me start that over. Pline 0, 0, 2, 2. And then I'm going to go 2, 0, give me a horizontal line, and I'll escape out of that. Okay, so I select my polyline, and then I look here at the properties. And here in the geometry section, the current vertex is, 1 is the start point, okay? And this gives you the X and the Y location of that particular point. And so if I move up to point number 2, which was the second point that I started, which you can see right there, it marks it. It gives you the coordinates for it. Same way point number 3. It gives you the absolute coordinates for that. Okay. If I need to edit a polyline, so I can select it, and the command is pedit. So PE, polyline edit. And these are the options that come up with it. So close will connect the last point and the first point. Okay. And so that close command will work with a line command also, as long as you're in one continuous command. Okay. So I'm going to open that back up, and it takes the last one out. The join is if you have two polylines, but they were done with two different commands. So let's say I come in here and I draw another polyline, so you can see I've got two separate polylines. And so if I go into pedit and I go join and select both of those polylines, now they're joined together into one entity. Okay. The width, you can change the width of a polyline. By default, it's 0, but you can put in a width value in inches or millimeters, depending on what your drawing is. It can be consistent all the way down, or it can be 0 at one and we'll say 2 at the other end. And we'll demonstrate that when we go to draw cutting plane lines, when we're working on a section drawing. Okay, now the fit converts your polylines into curves, and the points are still there. Okay, these are the points that I created. That's the one at 2, 2, and then there's at 4, 2. So the points are the same. It made it into a curve that fits. Okay. Polyline edit. I can convert the polyline to a spline. okay, which it works differently than a fit polyline. So you can see there's my points, and we'll talk about splines later. But that's one way to create one and convert it. Okay. I think that's all in there. Let's see. Decurve. Yeah, the others are kind of, you can play with those to see how they are. All right, so a polygon is an AutoCAD command that will draw polygons, but it creates them as it uses a polyline to create them. And so up here in our menu, normally you see the rectangle, you've got the polygon command right there. And the first thing it asks you for is the number of sides, and then it'll ask you for the center location and then some other things. But before I show you the other things, let's draw a circle. I'm going to put it at 5,5 and give it a radius of 2. Okay, so here I've got a circle. Now let's go back to polygon. Number of sides, I'm going to say 4. And the center is going to be the center of my circle. Now it asks me, do I want to inscribe it inside the circle or circumscribe about the circle? It's the radius of the circle that sets the size of the polygon. If we inscribe it, it means we're going to draw it inside the circle. Circumscribe it will be drawn outside the circle. So let's go with inscribe. And now you can see I can rotate it, I can drag out the size, but what I'm doing is I'm telling it the radius that I want to use, and so I'm going to tell it 2. So there is a circle, or a square, that's drawn inside the circle. And I'm going to go ahead and put it, no, I'm going to wait about the dimension. Let's draw another polygon. Same thing, 4 sides, center of the circle. And let's circumscribe this one. And see, no difference here, okay. And so we're going to go with a radius of 2. And it draws it to the outside of the circle. Now, the idea about this is that if you dimension across the flats, you're circumscribing. But if you dimension across the points, and I'm going to go with an aligned dimension. If you're dimensioning across the points, you're drawing inside the circle. If your dimension is across the flats, it's outside of the circle. That's the best way to remember it. So let's take these things out and do a hexagon. You can do a pentagon, an octagon, any size polygon that has any number of sizes. And let's inscribe it, and we'll go 2. Okay, and let's repeat that with a circumscribe. 6, center, circumscribed, radius of 2. Okay, and so once again, if we are dimensioning across the points, we're inscribing. But if we are dimensioning across the flats, and I'll go this one to here, we're circumscribing. Okay, so now that gets how to draw polygons. Let me take these out. And so when you get a polygon, you see the grips here. We've got, at the corners, we got the squares, and then we got the dashes on the middle. If you grab this and adjust it, you no longer have a true hexagon or whatever shape that you have. because if I pull this down to stretch it, you can see it changes the angles and the lengths of the lines. And so it distorts everything. So if your polygon is not quite right in size, you best just delete it and draw it again. Okay, now they can be copied, they can be rotated, they can be mirrored, all of those kinds of things. One other option in drawing polygons, and we select the number of sides, we'll keep it at 6, and I want to use the edge option. So down in the command line, you can see the option there for edge, so I'll say E. And then ask me for the first endpoint of the edge, and then I can give it whatever direction I want and the size. And let's say the length of the edge should be 2. So let's dimension that. Oh, come on. So most of the time in your projects, you'll be given a diameter of the polygon, whether it's points or flats. But occasionally, sometime you may need to draw a polygon where the length of one side is given. And that's how you would do it with the edge command. Just for giggles, let's try one. I'm going to say 27 sides. How's that look? Oh, that's kind of weird for you there, isn't it? Okay, so that's polylines and polygons. If you got questions, come to the lab and see us, or send us an email. Okay.